Hello everybody, hope you're all well. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to a brand new video. Today we are going to be doing a YouTube, Instagram and blogging Q&A. So before we jump into this, if you're new here, do click subscribe. I post new videos every single week. And if you enjoy this Q&A, do give it a thumbs up. And if you have any further questions at the end of the video that I haven't covered in this video, then feel free to leave those in the comments down below. And if there's enough questions down there, I'll do a part 2. Okay, we'll get straight into it. So the first question is tips on photography, how to make the most of your picture, either of yourself or a subject. So for me, I think one thing that I like to try and do when I take photographs or when I'm being photographed by somebody else is to kind of think what story your photo is going to be telling. I think if you've got that in mind, it can really help you be more creative. So with different outfits, I'll sometimes try to portray a certain vibe or a certain look or a certain kind of idea of what I'm actually doing whilst I'm wearing that outfit, if that makes sense. So if I'm wearing something more formal, I might head to maybe a slightly smarter location that looks a bit more worky, or if I'm shooting, I don't know, a shirt that I'm wearing today, which I think would be more appropriate for in the park, I might do a picnic setup or that sort of thing. And then in terms of objects as well, I really like to try and include some layers and some depth and to play around with texture as well. So if I was photographing a product, say it's a face moisturizer or fragrance or something like that, I'd play around with layering up what's surrounding it. So maybe by placing that object on a tray, maybe playing around with some reflections. I always love to add plants and flowers. I feel like that's kind of my theme anyway, so I'll always introduce a bit of those where possible. And maybe different fabrics layered up always looks really good. So I think it is just thinking about what story you want to tell and also thinking about what reaction you want to get from your photograph, particularly on Instagram, I think, where people are scrolling past and you're probably going to be getting 2 seconds of their time, if you're lucky, to make them stop and look at your photograph. So I have a little think about exactly what the message is in that photo, what's going to make people want to stop and look at it, and if there's anything fun or interesting that's going to make them do that. Would you ever consider dyeing your hair blonde? I think that's for a different Q&A. Do you feel, and how do you feel getting influenced by the perfect Instagram world comparison, etc.? This is an interesting one because obviously I spend so much time online. It is quite easy to get sucked into things like that. I don't really compare. I'm not sort of competitive in that respect. I'm very happy just to kind of like work my way along my own path or ladder, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to work and stuff. And in terms of kind of the FOMO thing, it's a tricky one because I'll see things online and I think, oh, that's really brilliant. But then if I was actually doing it myself, I probably wouldn't be bothered doing it. I'd probably be quite happy just to not be doing it. So it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I think a lot of the time we'll see things online and think, oh, I really want that, but you didn't want it before you saw it. So yeah, I'm also very aware that life isn't perfect and things aren't perfect, and I don't expect mine to be at all, and I do try to share that as well. I feel like some people can be criticised for trying to portray the perfection, and I think that's absolutely fine if people want to do that. And I think people need to take their own responsibility to know that what they're taking online is really their own responsibility. So who you're following is entirely up to you. So if you want to follow somebody that's got a really dreamy feed and everything's perfect and it all looks fab all the time, and that is how they portray their life, that's kind of up to you, and there's no harm in them doing that as far as I'm concerned. Because I think it's nice to be able to create whatever we want to, and if that is a little bit sort of fantastical or a little bit, you know, too perfect for real life, so what? It's escapism to a lot of people. So I think it really is our own responsibility in terms of what we want to absorb when we're looking at content ourselves. So the next question is, what camera do you use? So the camera that I use for my videos and that I was using for most of my photographs is the Canon G7X Mark II. So that is what I'm filming on now. It has the flip up screen so I can see myself above the camera, and also obviously you can flip that back down for when you're shooting. You can see the screen at the back as well. And I find this a really good camera. The sound is just auto. I don't plug a microphone in or anything. The focus is on auto most of the time. Most of the time when I take photos with it, I just have it set on auto. So it's a really good little camera that you can kind of do a bit of everything with. So I recommend this one. It's in the description box. All of my videos have all of my equipment in the description box if you do ever want to check that out. And then for my stills photos, I've recently bought an Olympus OMD Mark II, I think it is. I got a new lens, I think it's a 17mm. Or is it a 45? I'm not that good with this stuff. That camera is really, really good. I can do some self-shooting with that as well. So it has an app that you can download to your phone, so you can put the camera on a tripod and take pictures of yourself as well if you want to, and it's got like Wi-Fi and stuff, so that's a really good little camera. I also use my iPhone as well. So this is the iPhone 11, I think it is, and I find this does some really good photos. It's got the 3 lenses on it, so it gets some good quality. Sometimes I'll just whip this out. And going back to, again, kind of telling a story, sometimes you're going to miss something if you don't just whip your phone out and snap it. So yeah, I'm really up for sort of mixing things up on my Instagram feed. So I'm quite happy to go between a bit of iPhone, a bit of camera, and just, yeah, whatever takes my fancy, really. So I'd say definitely, if you do have a phone, to try out the camera on that and see what you can achieve, because there is some amazing stuff you can do with your phone. I should add as well that when it comes to cameras, it is really how much you kind of put into getting to know the camera as well, particularly with photography. I think with this camera that I'm on now, this is brilliant. You can just whack it on, have it on auto, and you will be good to go. But with the stills camera that I've been using, it's taken me a little while to kind of get to grips to that and all the different settings and stuff, so it's worth putting that extra bit of effort in. Okay, so the next question is, what was the inspo to start YouTube? Been binge watching your earlier vids. Thank you very much. I'll probably cringe if I watch any of my earlier vids. So I was definitely very much into YouTube before I started filming YouTube videos myself. I first discovered it, I can remember that I discovered Zoe Sugg by Googling Primark. So I was actually looking for their website and I discovered one of her videos through that. She was ranking quite high on the Google search with one of her Primark hauls, and I hadn't heard of any of this kind of stuff before. I clicked on her video and I was really fascinated by somebody sitting on their living room floor pulling things out of a bag to show to people. I thought it was really interesting and I sat and watched it all, and so I found other people through that, and then I was watching a lot of kind of interior makeover style videos as well. Back then I was watching a lot more Americans, and especially with the interior stuff, there was things I wanted to do around my home, so I was watching tutorials but I couldn't find necessarily UK based products. So that's how I started doing some of the kind of DIY. I thought, I'd love to do something myself on YouTube. That's something that I could do and I'm doing anyway, so I might as well film it. So I started off doing my kitchen cupboards, wanted to share how I did that process and a few things that I would find useful myself, like I was doing a mattress review, for example, and that kind of stuff. And then from there, I just branched out into other areas, which, yeah, I hadn't really considered doing before. I actually thought maybe at the time YouTube was more for teenagers and stuff, so I didn't really think there'd be necessarily an audience for the sort of content that I'd be putting out. And it's fab that I think now that as YouTube has grown, there are so many different niches on it, so many different communities and audiences, that it's brilliant. There really is something for everybody. So yeah, it's really wonderful that there is now this platform that has grown from something that, I don't know whether it was like just for teenagers, but maybe that was the only content that I was kind of finding when I first sort of started watching it. It all felt quite young. And I feel like there's so much for everybody, which is fab. And so I've just branched out into doing all different things. I absolutely love it now. How did you get over vlogging in public? You look so comfortable doing it. Thank you very much. I do feel really comfortable doing it now, and I don't really think about doing it now, which is brilliant, because the way to get over it is to not think about other people. If in your head you're thinking about what other people around you are thinking, and if they're looking at you or if they're staring, that then consumes your thoughts, so then it becomes very, very difficult to vlog and to feel relaxed. So it takes some practice. It's not easy when you first start at all whatsoever. It's not even like when I first sat down in front of the camera, I found it very, very difficult. I was like physically shaking. So it takes practice and you get used to it. So you kind of just have to bite the bullet and do it. I was inspired by my mate Luke, who'd done his vlog out and about, and he'd been down to Brighton, done a brilliant vlog, and I was so inspired by him doing it. I just thought, if he can do it, I'll have a go and I'll see how I get on. So I did mine. I think I went to Paris and I filmed a out and about vlog while I was there. I felt like kind of being abroad was sort of helpful as well. There's always that fear of, like when I first started out, that I might bump into somebody that I know, which the chances are in London it's very slim. And really, is it that bad that you're out and about vlogging if you do? It did feel quite weird at the time when I started out. So yeah, I was a bit embarrassed by it. And yeah, I actually kept my channel a secret for, there's probably people that still don't really know about my channel. I just don't tell anybody. I find it so much easier. And when people ask me what I do, I say, I'm just working on some digital content, and then they just don't ask any more questions. It sounds so boring. It just shuts down the conversation. It's brilliant. So yeah, I do get quite shy about it, which is silly really, but yeah, I just find it easier not to tell people. Anyway, I'm going off on one now, but essentially you kind of just have to be a little bit brave, take a deep breath and get out there and go for it. You do also have to be careful, because when you first start vlogging out and about in public, so you're holding the camera up in front of you, and I think because you aren't used to it, you're probably so focused on trying to get your vlog content, you really have to be careful. So now where I feel very comfortable with it, I feel like I can navigate and multitask a little bit and not bump into people. But it took a little while. There were definitely times when I was first starting out that I sort of clipped my hand on a tree or something walking along. So you do need to kind of have one eye on the camera, but also be very aware of your surroundings as well. And yeah, you just have to really just zone out and get in the zone. And it's actually interesting because I've gone from now where I felt self-conscious to be vlogging, I actually now use my vlogging camera as a bit of a crutch. So if I'm in an event or something and I've got nobody to talk to, and I feel a little bit awkward, I'll just whip the vlogging camera out and have a chat with that, and it'll make me feel more at ease. And the reality is that I'm just stood in the corner with no mates and talking to my camera because I feel really awkward, but nobody will know. This is an interesting question. How many hours a week do you work on YouTube and Instagram content on average? This is a really tricky one to answer because there's so many different stages to doing YouTube and doing Instagram. So obviously there's things like creating the content itself, which takes a lot of time, and it can really vary depending on what that content is. So for example, if I was doing something like a DIY or a room makeover or a project that's like that involves paint drying and setting things up and lots of different shots and camera angles, that could take many more hours than doing something like a sit-down video like this one, or a haul or something where I could sit down and have it all tied up within an hour, I would hope. There's also things like setup time, so you're putting lamps up, you're tidying up if your house is anything like mine, so that the area that you're filming in is nice and tidy and looking presentable. Then there's time to sort yourself out, so I'll usually get ready to film, like make myself look half decent, or try to, make sure that's all good. And then there's things like obviously thinking through the content as well. So thinking about what you're going to be saying in the video. I don't pre-plan that too much, but occasionally if it's something quite specific, I might bullet point the content just so I've got a few things to tick off. And then if you're working on a brand collaboration as well, they're going to have their things as well that you need to include within the video, certain deliverables or certain things that they want you to do. So you'll be working to a brief as well. So the content itself can take a lot of time, same with the photography side on Instagram as well. So if I'm shooting in town with a friend, I'll be meeting them to shoot several different outfits. So prior to even doing the shoot, you might be pulling out the outfits that you need to shoot, making sure that those are not creased, figuring out the different ones that you're going to put together, having a think about locations you might want to shoot at, lots of stuff can go into it beforehand. So there's kind of like prep, there's the content itself, and then there's other sides to it. So there's things like admin, there's things like kind of just running your channel day to day, there's the audience interaction as well, so it's really important to stay in touch with the people that are taking the time to watch you. Every morning I will kick off at 7:30 AM with Instagram, and I'd say I'll probably do about an hour on there, roughly speaking, half an hour to an hour, which is posting, it is interacting on other people's feeds, it is answering comments, it's answering DMs, it's putting some things onto my stories, some swipe up links, sharing stuff, and I've got 2 accounts as well. So I'd say probably a good hour in the morning, and then most of my working day would be spent doing content. So whether that's editing, creating content, doing the admin side of it, answering emails in terms of like brand stuff, yeah, all day basically. And then to be honest, often in the evenings I will be working as well. I'll quite often do some editing in the evenings, and it can go on for ages. So I would say definitely a full-time hours working week easily. The likelihood is much more. Obviously this is very flexible though, and a lot of the stuff that I do is half work, half life, if that makes sense. So I'll be creating content with stuff that I would be doing anyway. So it's a tricky one to know exactly what is classed as the content, but I suppose as soon as the camera comes out, that makes it the content, right? So I don't know, a lot of hours for sure. How do you reach out to build your audience? That's an interesting one. So in terms of reaching out, I guess a good thing to do that I like to do is take part in chats on Twitter and stuff. So I think there's various things you can get involved with, like Blogosphere magazine do a chat on a Sunday evening, usually it is, where you can go on there and talk to them, and it's usually a discussion around blogging or Instagram or YouTube or a bit of, you know, content creating. And that's a good way to sort of talk to other bloggers or content creators and for them to find you. Similar on Instagram, so by commenting on other people's feeds with genuine comments. I really find it annoying when people spam or use bots, anything like that. But if you're genuinely engaging with people, and you know, if you've seen their content and you like it and you want to engage, I think that's really nice, and it's a good way for them. They might then have a look at what you're creating as well. And then another way to connect to people is obviously with collaborations. I'd say when you're first starting out, just take a bit of time with that. Don't try and jump straight into doing collabs. Just figure out like what your own content is first, and then you'll get a better sense of the sort of people that might be sort of suited to you and what you're all about. What are your goals for 2020? So one thing I wanted to do this year was to take everything that I'm doing more full time and strip back some of my other work, which I had been doing. And I'd limited sort of the number of other jobs that I'm doing this year so I can concentrate more on YouTube and that sort of thing. So I feel like I'm on the way with that one, and obviously in the given circumstances, it's kind of worked out that I am now just doing this full time at the current time. In terms of things like my numbers, I feel really content at the moment, so I'm not like striving to reach a certain amount of subscribers or anything like that. I feel like now that my home account's reached 10,000 on Instagram, that's fab. It means I'm able to swipe up to things and share videos on there as well. So really the only goal for me on Instagram has been to get to 10k on each of my channels. Is it channels? What do you call them? Feeds. I'm not very good at this. I don't know why I'm doing a Q&A on it. I'm rubbish. Yeah, to get to 10k just so you can get the swipe up, which is just a feature that you have when you reach 10k. So that was the main goal, to get 10k on those. And then in terms of YouTube, obviously at one point, if I ever did reach 100k, that's incredible because you get a play button. So you get like a physical thing, like as a well done, you've done well. You've got a physical thing, which would be fab. But really, I'm just happy to have the engagement. That's so important to me, is to have, I've got itchy knees, sorry if you can hear me scratching them, is to have people commenting and people turning up to watch the videos. That's much more important than numbers, and I would say that to anybody starting out. Would love to know, how far in advance do you plan your YouTube content? So this really varies. So with some content, whether it's seasonal or whether it's a kind of long-term collaboration, something like that, I'll be planning it more in advance. So I'll know when perhaps, you know, Christmas is on the way, for example. Last year I did start planning that in October, and I started shooting that, I think it was on the 1st of November, if I remember correctly, because I wanted to make sure that I'd got ahead, because that's a very busy time of year for me. And then with seasonal content as well, I'll try to pre-film that and get ahead with that, because obviously you want anything seasonal to be available for people to watch it before the event actually happens. So something like Easter content, you'd want to do it a few weeks ahead of that so people have time to actually see that content before the thing itself. But weekly basis, I would say I'm probably about a week ahead with everything, so week to 2 weeks. So I'll have things in the diary that I'm planning kind of that are coming up. And then sometimes I'll then get ahead of myself, so I might start shooting stuff for 3 weeks time. But when I get a video, I get excited and I want to whack it on straight away. So I need to cut, yeah, I need to get better, but I am getting better at scheduling and all that sort of stuff. But it's kind of the boring bit, isn't it? So just, yeah, sometimes I just think I'll just film something and whack it on. Sometimes it's very, very quick. So recently I've been doing some vlogs where I will film, and the one that I'm doing at the moment this weekend, I'll be filming it. I've been editing as I go a little bit, so I'll be able to turn that one around really quickly, and that will be on within like a day. It'll be up. How do you prepare before shooting in terms of brainstorming, writing, what to say on camera, or is it all improvisation? A lot of it's in my head, to be honest, so I'll be thinking of a video idea, and I'll definitely have an idea of what I want to include in that video. If there's things that I'm likely to forget in the video, the classic being the thumbnail, Or if I'm doing a collab with somebody and there's a lot of things we kind of have to tick off because we're shooting on both of our channels, I will get my clipboard, which I would use for my directing work and normally have like a script on it, and I will just scribble out some bullet points of things that I have to remember just to tick off as a kind of reference point. For example, if I was doing a DIY video, the things on that might be something specific in the intro that I need to remember to mention. It might be to remember to get the B-roll shots or the styled shots of the things once I've created them. And it might be thumbnail, and then it might be remember to shoot a trailer for Instagram as a separate bit of promotion as well, because that's another thing that I always forget to do. So I would sort of do a rough bullet point list, but I wouldn't be overthinking what I'm going to say. And yeah, I mean, the great thing is you can edit, so just chop out anything that's not relevant if I rambled too long. What were the first 2 YouTube, Instagram milestones that you celebrated? Ooh, I actually think for YouTube, seriously, it was 100 subscribers, I think. I was really happy with that. And I remember that you could change your URL, so you can have it like / Mr. Carrington rather than like a load of jumbled letters, which I thought was fab. Like, I do love some of the kind of like geeky stuff surrounding YouTube and stuff, so any like little perks you get like that, brilliant. So if you get 100 subscribers, that's really cool. And then for Instagram, probably, did I celebrate 1,000? I definitely celebrated 10K on Instagram. I was absolutely over the moon. That isn't something that I ever thought I would probably get to, and it is very hard to grow on Instagram, I found, if you do it organically and you don't cheat. So yeah, to get there and be totally legit and have a proper audience of 10,000, not a fake bot bought one. I can't remember what I actually did to celebrate. I probably went to Poundland or something. And I do remember getting to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube and just being absolutely overjoyed with that. And I can remember I was in France at the time, in the middle of nowhere. I was in a field. If I can find that bit of footage, I'll pop it in. But I was over the moon, again, because 1,000 is a lot. My subscriber count had gone to 1,000, and I managed to screen grab it while it was literally on 1,000, because I love it when it's like an even number. I cannot believe that now there's 1,000 people that have hit the subscribe button to this channel. But honestly, for whoever you are watching, I am very, very grateful that you watch my videos. So yeah, I did sort of celebrate that just by myself, and yeah, it is good to celebrate these things. I think it's really important. It's also good to reflect and look back and remember sort of how happy you were with those certain numbers and not worry too much about all that good stuff. Your collaborations are with the same YouTubers. Any plans to make new YouTube connections after the lockdown? I absolutely love doing collabs. The thing with collaborating with people for me is that I have to be genuinely fully engaged and watching regularly their content, and for me to kind of send people from my channel to somebody else's channel, I want them to have the best possible experience. So I would only collaborate with people that I truly am really watching and loving all of their content. With things like collaborations, you're kind of agreeing on content to do together, an upload date, you know, all that stuff, making sure you're both on the same page with it all and genuinely feel really comfortable, especially if you're doing a collab where you're actually together. I think there's nothing worse than people collabing that it just sort of feels a bit forced and they're just doing it to try and boost their numbers. I think you can spot that a mile off. But it is so rewarding when you collaborate with somebody and then you have people from your channel going to their channel and you see in the comments that they wanted to go over and then they've stayed there, they've actually really enjoyed the content, and vice versa. So yeah, I think collaborations are a lot of fun to do. I absolutely love doing them, and I definitely hope that I'll be doing some more with some new people as well very soon, and always with the old favourites, of course. And this is a good question. This is from my mate Callan, and he said, is there anything you haven't done that you want to, but it may not fit on your channel? I think that's a really interesting question. With things that don't quite fit, what I like to do is test them out within a vlog. So if there's something that I'm not feeling too sure about or confident with, I feel like if you put it in a vlog where you've got some solid things in that vlog that people usually want to watch you for, you can try it out there. So rather than jumping straight in with a standalone video of, I don't know, maybe a fitness thing, for example, which I haven't really done. I don't think I intend to either, but you never know. Then that's a good place to slot it in, because you can just pop it in a little segment within a vlog and it's kind of sandwiched and squirreled away. I'll tell you one thing that I used to do, and I don't really do anymore because I feel like it doesn't quite fit on the channel anymore, is kind of just very specific how-to videos. So I used to do things like how to paint over mold on your wall, or how to bleed a radiator or something. And now I just feel like if I put a video out like that, just a standalone how-to, people might be a bit disappointed because it's not that fun, if that makes sense. So it might be quite a useful video to people. It might do well in terms of ranking, but for my regular viewers, they might be a bit like, oh, you've just done 10 minutes on how to bleed a radiator. So that's one area that I've kind of steered away from. I was thinking maybe that's something I should do separately, maybe for like IGTV on my home account or something. I'm not sure, because I find those videos really helpful, and those were one of the reasons why I started out YouTube. But yeah, I've sort of steered away from doing those. And the other thing that I'm starting to do a little bit more of, which I haven't really sort of done before, is more voiceover led content. So I have a lot of comments about my voice, so I thought I would start doing some more videos that are voiceover led, or have good segments of voiceover on them. So that's it. That's all the questions for today. I really hope you enjoyed them, and thank you so much if you did leave me a question over on Instagram. Feel free to follow me over there so you don't miss things like this in future. That's usually where I would share a question sticker. It's really handy to be able to do it that way, so they're all in one place. But yeah, if you have any more questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. What I would say to anybody that is thinking about starting out doing anything like this is that we all do really start somewhere, and nobody's first videos are going to be perfect. Everyone kind of grows and develops as they go. So the best thing you can do is just start. You can use your phone, get cracking, have some fun, get some content out there, and just see where it takes you, because you never know what might happen with it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any more questions, then do feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And if there's enough, I will do like a part 2 to this at some point to answer all of those for you. Give the video a little thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.